Welcome to Klutz Kitchen. I'm Jenna Walter and this is Caroline Brown. And today we're going to teach you easy recipes that are hard to mess up, if I say so.
Yeah, definitely.
I will be making homemade honey wheat bread and Caroline will be making homemade butternut squash soup. So, Caroline, get us started.
Yeah, the soup is great for chilly fall or winter afternoons, and it's really easy. Alright, so first we have to roast the squash.
Okay.
Now to do that, you want to chop off this end of it with the stem.
You want to hand that to me?
Yeah, and then Jenna, I want you to chop the neck right there.
Oh wow. It is very challenging, I will tell you. I think it's helpful if you get the first half and then slide back and then back, like almost like a rocking motion.
Yeah, that's a good
I
tip.
think that's the easiest for me at least. Especially starting forward is helpful. I think I need to hit the gym.
So let's throw these pieces onto the pan, just get them out of our way.
Looks good.
Yeah, and from there we're gonna chop this in half so we can get rid of the seeds. Be really careful about your fingers. I'm a professional, so it's okay. You'll still have all my fingers, so
yes, this is true.
we're good. So then what you want to do is you just want to get on in there, get all the seeds out. Alright, so from here, now that our squash is all cored, we're just going to plop it on down and then continue to chop it. You want to try to make your pieces uniform, just so the cooking's easier. But it doesn't matter too much because this is just getting blended.
The good thing is, after we start to roast these, they don't need to be completely cooked because we're just going to throw them into a saucepan and cook it a little more and puree it all. So it'll just continue cooking throughout the entire process. I'm just going to grab these pieces that she's already cut and place them onto our pan here. What we're also going to add is some butter because the butter is actually going to make the acorn squash a little bit crispier on the outside.
Cook in the oven at 400 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. About halfway through, you'll want to take it out and flip the pieces and just poke them with a fork, and then stick it right back on it.
And you can really stick these butter pieces anywhere. It's all going to melt and get into every single location, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take this to the oven.
So I just got back from flipping the squash. They've been in for about 20 minutes at 400 degrees. I just flipped them and now we're gonna get ready to make some honey wheat bread.
All right, let's get started. So right here, I have 2.5 cups of warm water. If you'd like to be specific, it's around 85 to 90 degrees. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take some yeast. And what yeast is actually, it's alive already in this package, but what the warm water is gonna do to it is activate it. So then once it's activated, we can put it into our mixture for the bread and it's gonna create the air bubbles to help the bread rise when it's in the oven. So we'll stick it in here. And then I'll grab a spoon and Caroline, do you wanna mix that together?
I would love to.
Once it's all mixed in, you'll see it bubbling as it sits. So most recipes for bread actually say to just mix all the ingredients together, but it's a little bit better to do it in stages. So what we're gonna do first, after that has been mixed, we'll set that aside. We're just gonna take a 1/4 cup of honey. So let's take that. Now this bread is definitely sweeter, so it'll go perfect with that squash soup that we're making.
Definitely.
So I'm just going to stick this into a freestand mixer. I have the paddle attachment in it right now, so not the whisk. If you use the whisk, it'll break up the ingredients a little bit too much and not let it combine as well as it should. Okay, so now that we've had this honey into our stand mixture, Caroline, would you take this brown sugar? We just need another 1/4 cup. Now, one thing that's a little bit different about brown sugar than just regular grain white sugar is that with the molasses in the brown sugar, it's going to make it compact. And the good thing about that is we can actually get exact measurements like this when you squish it in like Caroline just did. And that's really good for baking because in baking you really need exact measurements because baking really is more of a science. But in other recipes, Caroline and I always recommend to mix it up, do whatever. If you think it needs more salt, add more salt. If you think it needs more pepper, and vice versa.
Yeah, but totally make it your own.
But with baking, you need to be exact. Okay, so next, after the brown sugar, we're just gonna add 1 stick of butter. And if you feel it, it's kind of at a room temperature, so it's a little soft. And that is gonna be the best just because it'll mix easier. But if you're in a rush or you forgot to take out your butter, don't fret. You can just stick it in the microwave for a little bit. If it's a little bit melty, no worries, just throw it in there with it all. Now, we need around 3/4 tablespoon of salt. So here I got 1/2. And stick that in there. And then 1/4. Then we're gonna add wheat flour because like I said, this is honey wheat bread. So we're gonna take 1.5 cups. So here's the 1 cup. Just stick it in there. I'll just take this knife to kind of make it as even as possible and take off the excess. Now that we have 1.5 cups of wheat flour, we're gonna give it a little mix and put it on a low speed at first just because otherwise you're gonna have flour flying everywhere. Okay, so now that we've got that mixed, we're gonna add just some old-fashioned oats. Get a little bit heartier bread with these oats. So once again, we're gonna add 1.5 cups of this. So take that. And then we're gonna give that another mix. You'll be able to tell when it's done mixing is that the oats will kind of combine with the brown sugar and the other flour that we have in there and just kind of be a grainy little clumps, but not super wet because we haven't had any wet ingredients really besides the honey. So now that our yeast has been activated, you should be able to see some bubbles just on the top. So we're gonna add this in increments because it'll not only make less of a mess from the flour flying everywhere, the liquid going everywhere as well, but it'll also just make it easier to mix and it'll be good for the bread. So I'm gonna add some of this water mixture, okay? And then do you wanna get 1 cup of that regular flour, Caroline? We're gonna actually be adding 4 full cups of this regular, just bread white flour. Okay, so now I'm gonna add this cup of flour. Now something that you might wanna do is I like to take just a little towel and wrap it around the mixture, just because that way less of a mess, the flour's not gonna go everywhere. But we're just gonna do this as a nice slow speed. If you have one of these mixtures, probably starting around a 2 and maybe going to a 4 once the flour's been incorporated a little bit. You should see as you're adding the ingredients, the dough is going to start to form, so it's going to get clumpier and big clumps, less of a grainy texture as we saw before. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of this liquid and take my 1 cup of flour. Then we're going to just add the last bit of the liquid, water, yeast mixture. Okay.
And that's why you use towel. Klutz kitchen.
Hey! Now, what I've done is just taken this mixture and placed it onto a flat surface with a lot of flour. The dough is going to be quite wet right now, so what we're going to do is knead it, which will just help get it into a ball shape and also add more flour to it just to get it a little bit drier. Now we do have a lot here, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a knead, and Caroline's going to be adding flour just to get it dry, and we're going to actually split it in half because we really don't need to bake all of it at a time, which is good because then you can take half of it and stick it into your freezer, fridge, and then you can just use it at a different time. It should last about 5 days. I'm just going to give it a little cut down the middle. So I'm just going to do one at a time now, just to get it nice and dry. Okay. So now we've got our bread. It's a little bit drier to the touch, not going to stick to your fingers or stick to a plate or anything. And all we have to do is let it sit for about an hour or until it looks like it's doubled in size. And we'll just take some saran wrap, place it on top, put it anywhere in your kitchen. So here we have our bread is out of the oven. We let it rise until it was double its size and put it into a 375-degree oven for about an hour, but you could just watch it depending on your oven. You just want it to have a light brown, like a little bit of dark patches on the bread. If you like your bread a little bit drier, keep it in longer. If you don't, just keep it shorter. So just watch it, you can guesstimate, but around an hour is a good time. And all we did was put a little bit of butter on top which just makes it look really nice, but you can also obviously add as much butter as you want afterwards. Okay, so kind of take a slice.
I would love it. It smells so good, guys.
It really does. And it's still very warm. There we go. I'll cut myself a slice too.
That's really good.
Wouldn't you like it?
Mm-hmm.
Taste. It's so good.
Yeah.
It just has like a little hint of sweetness, but you can taste the heartiness from the oats, I think. And it's really dense, which is good.
Alright, so we've just taken the squash out of the oven. It was in the oven at 400 degrees for about 40 minutes. You can see that it's really nicely browned right now. The squash should be firm, but still soft. We're gonna let it cool for now, and then we'll peel off the skins in a bit.
Alright, perfect. I'll stick it over here.
Awesome. Alright, so next what we need to do for the soup is cut the onion. So what I like to do, Jenna, is cut both ends. That way you have a flat surface to work with. And you do this before you even start peeling. And then after you get this other end, make a small cut into the first layer. And then we could just peel off that entire first layer and we don't have to worry about the skin at all. Alright, so what you're gonna do now is just chop it in half and then we're gonna dice it. So what I like to do is just make cuts here, but don't cut all the way through. And you'll cut maybe about quarter inch pieces. And then from there, you just make horizontal cuts, cuts horizontal to the cutting board.
Okay.
Right. And then from there, just make chops right there. And this is just like the squash. The cuts don't have to be perfect. It'll make cooking the onion a little bit easier, sauteing it. But since we're blending it, just stick it on in the pan and we'll throw a little oil on it too.
So, just pick this up with my knife, throw it into your pan here.
Jenna's not here right now because she has other business to attend to. Alright, so now we're gonna saute some onions. So what I've done, I've just thrown a little grapeseed oil into some pan with some onions and we're gonna start cooking them. So, the onions are cooking right now and we're just gonna stir them every once in a while. You'll know they're done once they start turning translucent. If you want a sweeter onion, you can cook them for a longer time over a lower heat. So you can cook them for up to an hour if you wanted to make a French onion soup, for example, because that will release all the sugars and caramelize them. But right now, we'll just cook them like this over a medium heat for not too long. All right, looks like the onions are about done, so we're going to deglaze the pan with just some chicken broth. Basically what you want to do is just pour a little bit of chicken broth in here. And then we're just gonna scrape the bottom of the pan and get all that good oniony flavor. All right, so really get on in there and get all that good onion flavor. That will really bring the taste of the soup. It'll bring something special to the soup. All right, that looks about done. So then from there, you're just gonna add the rest of your chicken broth and bring that to a boil. All right. Perfect. Okay, so we're just gonna let that boil on over and we're going to prepare the squash. So now we're going to de-skin the squash. Basically what we're just gonna do is we're going to grab a piece, grab a spoon, and just take out the real meat of the squash and just cut around the skin. Once you do that, you can just put the good part of the squash aside in a bowl and leave the skin here. And just keep doing that for all the pieces. It's not that hard, doesn't take too terribly long. And once we've done that, we can stick it on in the soup. All right, so now we've skinned all of our squash and we're ready to just stick it in the soup. So just take your nice big bowl here and just plop it on in. use your whole butternut squash, your whole onion, and then just stir it on in. And then from there, we're just gonna stick all of that into the blender. First, I think it's a great idea to add a little nutmeg. Just kind of sprinkle it to taste. I like a lot. So now, we're just gonna take this and stick it in the blender. All right, so I just finished blending our soup and I put it back into the pot. Let me go grab it. Oh, there it is. It looks great. Oh my gosh, and it smells so good. So much nutmeg. All right, so I'm gonna put it back onto the stove just so it stays warm. And I'm gonna make myself a bowl. And there you go, there's your final product. Butternut squash with just a little bit of nutmeg and just a little bit of onion. And oh my gosh, it smells amazing. If you wanted to spice it up a little bit, you know, make it a little bit more fancy, you can do that in a really simple way by just adding a couple of croutons to the top, or maybe drizzling a little bit of olive oil on it. But there you go, that's about it. I wish you could try it, but you'll just have to make it yourself. So, for Klutz Kitchen, this is Caroline Brown.